A small pebble can create ripples that spread far and wide across a pond. Likewise, this tiny spice, despite its size, became the most coveted and influential spice in history. Now, let me introduce you to the real star of the show, black peppercorn. Yep, that tiny thing, despite its size, decided it wanted to rule the world. Black pepper's impact was like a rock concert. It rocked nations, and its influence echoed throughout history. Oh, and you thought pepper was just for seasoning your fries? Think again. It was the spice that launched 1,000 ships from the Arabian and the European region to the Indian subcontinent region. Now fasten your seatbelts, my friends, because this spicy saga isn't just history. It's a roller coaster ride through time. Peppercorn, the original rock star spice, was like the black gold of the olden days. Ships from every nook and cranny of the globe set sail for centuries, all on a quest for that magical, mysterious black peppercorn. Now let's take a hilarious journey to the land of pepper magic, where the hills are as wet as your cousin's cat on bath day. We're talking about the Malabar region in India, and it's not just any place, it's the pepper paradise. Imagine this place. It's like the superstar of pepper production for centuries. Merchants from all around the world were like, I need some of that Malabar pepper, ASAP. It was so fancy. They even put Made in Malabar labels on it. Now get this, the hotshot trading port of Malabar was Muzirapatnam. It was right there on the Arabian Sea's coast, and folks called it the Queen of the Arabian Sea. Even the ancient Greeks were in on this pepper craze. This Greek geographer and historian named Strabo, who lived around 60 BC, in his work called Geographical mentions that pepper was one of the most valuable commodities traded between India and Greece. Greek merchants would show up at Muzirapatnam with ships that could rival a pirate fleet, just to load up on tons of pepper. They were like, give us all that spicy goodness, and we'll pay you in mountains of gold and silver. And guess what? The pepper from Muzirapatnam was top-notch, like the VIP section of the Spice Club. It made the city so stinkin' rich. They had piles of gold and silver lying around like spare change. So there you have it, the pepper tale of Malabar, where hills, pirates, and Greek traders came together for a spicy adventure. As the splendor of ancient Greece waned amidst political turbulence and economic fragility, the mighty Roman Empire ascended to power, not only annexing Greek territories, but also seizing the mantle of peppercorn trade from their grasp. Meet Pliny the Elder, the Roman historian and traveler who was into nature and stuff. He lived way back from 23 to 79 AD, and he wrote this massive book called Naturalis Historia. In that book, he spilled the beans about peppercorns. He was like, hey, you know that spicy stuff? It's from India. And it's so valuable. It's like the spice version of a fancy car. But wait, there's more. People used peppercorns as money. Yes, you heard it right. It was like trading gold for pepper. Now, back in the ancient Roman kitchen, there was this chef named Apicius. He was like the Gordon Ramsay of ancient Rome. He wrote this cookbook called De Re Coquinaria, which is basically a treasure trove of Roman cooking secrets. In there, he raved about pepper. It wasn't just for spicing things up. It was like the VIP guest at every Roman meal. Soups, appetizers, main courses, you name it, pepper was there, adding some zing. And here's the kicker. They even mixed pepper with honey and wine to create a funky drink called mulsum. It's like the ancient version of a spicy cocktail. Can you imagine sipping on that at a Roman party? But hold on, folks. Pepper was so fancy pants back then that it only hung out with royalty and the super rich. It was like the Kardashians of spices, sitting on tables surrounded by layers of guards and protection. They treated pepper like the crown jewels. While things were going smooth, the Romans had their other job to mind. Yeah, they spread across Europe, and they brought two big things with them: Christianity, and you guessed it, pepper. People in Europe went crazy for this tasty spice, and they just couldn't get enough of it. The Romans didn't know the secret source of peppers and always had to depend on the Arabians and the Greeks to get a shot of it. But here's where things get spicy. The Romans were like, hey, let's spread Christianity everywhere, even to the folks in Arabia. Well, that didn't sit well with the Muslim Arabians, who had their own religion. So, they started revolting, and it got messy. This fight messed up the trade routes controlled by the Arabians. So, European countries were like, we need our pepper fix, and we need it now. They wanted to find new ways to get their hands on this precious spice. Pepper became the driving force behind their ambitious plans to find new sea routes to India. After lots of exploring, a brave sailor named Vasco da Gama made a big discovery. Instead of going the long way around Africa like the Portuguese usually did, he found a shortcut to southern India. And guess what? He didn't show up as a regular trader. He pretended to be a Christian missionary, but hidden agenda was to trade black pepper. In India, he met the big boss, the ruler of Calicut, King Samuthri. King Samuthri, also known as the Zamarin of Calicut, was a significant historical figure in the 15th century. He ruled over the region of Calicut in South India and played a key role in the interactions between India and European powers, particularly the Portuguese. Samuthri sought to maintain control over the valuable spice trade, especially pepper, which was highly sought after by European traders. Samuthri's reign is remembered as a period of complex interactions between Indian rulers and European explorers, shaping the course of history and trade in the Indian subcontinent. His role in these historical events underscores the importance of the spice trade in the region during that era. When the Indian ruler, Samuthri, asked Vasco da Gama what he wanted, Vasco said he wanted to buy some pepper. To be friendly, Vasco gave the king some small gifts like clothes and hats, but the king didn't think they were good enough, and he wanted gold and silver instead, in exchange for the pepper. Vasco da Gama found himself powerless to change the situation, prompting his return to Portugal. Nevertheless, he devised an alternative plan and dispatched another individual named Pedro Alvarez Cabral to India with the mission of establishing a trade network for pepper. Murryspatam was the bustling port where Arabian traders had long engaged in commerce with the Indians, and now the Portuguese entered the scene. The historical enmity between the two parties intensified and extended to the port of Murryspatam. A violent conflict ensued, resulting in the destruction of the port. King Samuthri wanted to make peace and establish smooth relationship with the Portuguese, but his efforts to establish diplomatic relations with Vasco da Gama and the Portuguese ultimately led to conflicts due to misunderstandings and disagreements. These tensions escalated into confrontations, impacting the trade routes and relations between the regions. The Portuguese king, angered by the situation and the treatment of Portuguese envoys, sent Vasco da Gama with a fleet of 15 ships to confront Samuthri. This fleet was well armed and prepared for military action. Vasco da Gama and his fleet engaged in a naval battle with Samuthri's forces. The Portuguese had superior firepower and naval tactics, which gave them an advantage in the conflict. Following the naval battle, Vasco da Gama and his forces laid siege to the port of Calicut, Samuthri's stronghold. The Portuguese cut off Calicut from the outside world, disrupting trade and causing economic hardships. The Portuguese forces eventually captured Calicut, gaining control of the city and its valuable port. This victory allowed them to establish dominance over the pepper trade in the region. With control over Calicut and its trade routes, the Portuguese established a monopoly on the pepper trade. They could now dictate terms and control the flow of spices, including pepper, to Europe. In summary, Vasco da Gama's military actions and the capture of Calicut allowed the Portuguese to defeat Samuthri and gain power over the pepper trade in the region, solidifying their dominance in the lucrative spice market. The Portuguese monopoly on the spice trade had a devastating impact on the Indian economy. The Samuthri of Calicut lost his main source of income, and many Indian merchants were ruined. The Portuguese also imposed heavy taxes on the Indian people, and they forced them to convert to Christianity. The Portuguese success in India attracted other European powers, such as the French, the Dutch, and the English. These powers also began to use force to establish their own trading posts in India. The competition between the European powers led to a series of wars and conflicts, which further destabilized the region. The peaceful trade network that had existed in India for centuries was destroyed by the arrival of the Europeans. The Europeans used force to establish their monopolies and to exploit the Indian people. The competition between the European powers led to a series of wars and conflicts, which further destabilized the region and had a profound impact on Indian culture and society. The British were able to defeat the other European powers in India due to their superior military power and their use of diplomacy. They also benefited from the fact that the Indian kingdoms were divided and often at war with each other. The British East India Company, EIC, was established in 1600 as a trading company with the exclusive right to trade with India. The EIC initially started out as a friendly trader, but it quickly became more aggressive and began to use force to take control of the Indian economy. While India was undergoing this hardship, the Europeans had in parallel invaded the Americas in the 15th and 16th centuries in search of gold, silver, and other resources. They also enslaved the indigenous people and forced them to work in mines and on plantations. They found chili peppers growing native of the Americas and started using them in place of pepper. They took chili peppers and cultivated them in all of their colonial regions, and that's how in the 16th century, when the Europeans arrived in India, they planted and cultivated this new spice, the chili pepper. Chili peppers were quickly adopted by Indian cuisine, as they were cheaper and more abundant than pepper. As a result, the demand for pepper in India declined, and its value plummeted. For centuries, India was the undisputed pepper capital of the world. Pepper was a prized commodity, traded for gold and other valuable goods. Indian pepper was renowned for its quality and flavor, and it was in high demand from all corners of the globe. But all good things must come to an end. The Indian pepper industry never fully recovered from the introduction of chili peppers. Today, India is no longer a major producer of pepper. The global pepper trade has also shifted, with Vietnam, Indonesia, and Brazil now leading the way. The decline of India's pepper industry is a reminder of the ever-changing global spice trade. What was once a valuable commodity can quickly become obsolete if there is no demand for it. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you have any intriguing topics you'd like us to discuss, please don't hesitate to share your suggestions in the comments section. For those who are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. As for our returning viewers, your support through likes and shares is greatly appreciated. Stay tuned as we eagerly prepare to bring you another captivating moment from history.